All right. I think we're going live now. We are live now. I think everything's working. Okay, nice. There's something new here. I can share my screen with you guys if I wanted to. Apparently, I didn't know that. That's a new thing. So anyway, let's get on with it. Let's get disclaimers out of the way. We'll jump right into it. This is the weekly live broadcast, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. At least that's what we're doing right now. And most of the time I'm here on Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. Sometimes things get in the way. I can't make it. But for the most part, I pretty much every week, this is where I'm at. And if you have questions or, something you'd like to comment on a video I haven't responded to because I've been bad about that, jump in here on a weekly live and get your questions answered, because I do my best to respond to every chat that comes in during the live broadcast itself. Unless you're talking to each other. If you're carrying on a conversation with each other, a lot of times I skip over those. So I'm not seeing the microphone bar move. Everybody let me know if you can hear me okay. Make sure before we jump into it. While I'm waiting on that, I'll say, there is nothing. This is just Ask Me Anything session. I mean, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Somebody did let me know I'm good. We're good. Okay. This is Ask Me Anything. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Be polite, be friendly, family friendly. Don't start cussing at us or calling us names or anything like that. We'll have to kick you out. But other than that, it's all good. We can have friendly discussions, friendly debates. I don't care. Just like I said, be polite about it. All right. Hey, War Child's here with the first like and the first comment from New Zealand. Awesome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good to see you. Whole bunch of retracted messages from Gun Clinging Pollen. I'm not sure what those were. Pollen, I should say, but I'm not sure what those were. Probably don't want to know, do we? Martin Rabbitry says, hey, question for people who show their rabbits. Can you show them before breeding them if they are a doe, or will that ruin their showability? Wait, can you show them before breeding them if they, I'm not sure will that ruin their showability? Before you breed them, you want to know if you can show them before you breed them? Or are you saying like, will breeding them ruin their show? I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm not really a show rabbit person, so I can't answer it either way, but I'm sure somebody in here can jump into it. I got Joy from Western Oregon. Good to see you. There's Blessed with Pets says, hey, I'm a bit discouraged when it comes to breeding rabbits. Haven't had a litter since March, and I've bred countless does. Just past 45 days after breeding 8 does at once and absolutely nothing. Man, that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know if I have good advice for you. I mean, it sounds like you're doing everything you can, but nothing. I don't know if you need new rabbits. I don't know what. I know you're down there in Louisiana. Is it possible that your buck has gone sterile? Maybe. I don't have good advice, unfortunately. It just seems like if it was me, I would probably have to look at getting new rabbits. But I know you've already done that. I don't have a good solution. Let's see what we got here. Martin Rabbitry says, blessed with pets. If your doe hasn't had any babies whatsoever after about 3 to 4 tries, and you tried at least 2 proven bucks, then I would get rid of her. Okay, well, that's not, yeah, if the bucks are proven, yes, true. Bless says, I get 5 to 6 fall-offs each time. Also, I'm at day 35. 3 of my does rebred. The rest won't lift. Okay, day 35 is not terribly late. Give it a couple more days, maybe you'll get something. Unfortunately, I just don't have any other advice. I don't know. Hey, there's Ed Got Bait. He says, hi, all. Hope everyone is warm and doing good. Yeah, it was nice today. I mean, we got up to like 64 degrees, 65 degrees. I mean, it was like spring. It's fantastic. But we got a big rain coming in this weekend. It's supposed to rain like really heavy rain. I mean, I think Saturday they said there's a good chance we're going to get excessive rainfall. So we'll see. I don't think I'll get much done outside this weekend. Need to get a video shot for you guys. It's been a couple of weeks, probably about 3 weeks since I've actually shot video. Just having such a hard time coming up with topics lately and things to shoot on. And there's always other things going on. So hopefully I'll get back to it pretty quick. Andy Rabbit's here. Good evening to you. Blessed with Pets says, I bought a whole new pedigree herd a few months ago. Still no luck. All under 2 years old, and most are proven. So make sure you don't have them out in the sun. Put them in a shady spot. Maybe it's the heat that's getting to them. I don't know what the temperature is down there. I can't imagine it's too terribly hot, even in Louisiana. But I really don't know what to tell you, unfortunately. I wish I did. I just don't have any answer for you. It just seems I can't come up with a reason why they wouldn't be breeding for you, or why they wouldn't be successful breeding, I guess. There's Bob Cole. Good to see you. Verna's here. Good to see you, Verna. Thanks for joining. Tony from Toronto. Good to see you. Chris Mason says, hello all from Northern Illinois. I'm back again this week. Chris, thank you for your answer to my question last week. I've got plenty more questions ready. Well, let's fire away because I'll do my best to get them answered, hopefully. Boris says, hello, Chris. Hello to you too. And Blessed with Pets says, I really wish live chats had closed captions. So, well, can you not hear me well? Is that the problem? Are you saying you can't hear me? You wanted to be able to read what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I'm a little lost on that one. Article 4, Section 4 says they weren't bad. They weren't what was not bad. I don't know what wasn't bad. But anyway, Tom Dugas says, hey, Chris, do you sell or know anyone who sells jumbo wild quail hatching eggs? I live about 25 minutes from Joplin, Missouri. Well, there you go. That's real close. We're practically neighbors, aren't we? I sell some eggs from time to time. I don't have any right now because they're just not really producing much right now, but not very often. It's not something I do on a regular basis. If you're looking for a good supplier, you've got My Shire Farm. If you can get an order in, they're probably getting pretty ready for their pretty busy time of year, but the great supplier, they'll be able to ship eggs to you and you can get a good supplier there. There's Whiskey Tango Farms. There's who else? I can't think of somebody else, I'm sure, but I'm probably forgetting somebody. But anyway, there's a couple of good suppliers. Here it'll be probably a month or two before I'll really have any kind of eggs to get rid of. But if you can, if you're in the area and in a month or two and I got some eggs, let me know and we'll work something out. But it may be a while. Martin Rabbitry says, can you show them after breeding them? Okay, can you show them after breeding them was your question about the rabbit shows. Okay, so somebody from a rabbit show, like that does rabbit shows, knows a little bit more about them than me, could probably answer that one for you. I would say, I can't imagine why not. I just don't think it would make that big of a difference. But, I'm not a rabbit show person. Chris Mason says, Chris, if you were to redo your how to improve your hatch rate videos, what changes, if any, would you make? Was that you that I saw a comment about somebody wanting me to redo those? That may have been you. Let me take a look here real quick, see if I can find it real quick. No, that was not you. That was not you that asked me to do an update on that. But no, I don't think there's really any updates to it. I mean, that's pretty much it. How to improve your hatch rate. I mean, that's it. Now, I don't go through all those steps every time I incubate eggs. A lot of times I just throw in the eggs there, and I usually mist them down with some Listerine, half Listerine, half water, before I put them in the incubator. But I just put them in the incubator and whatever hatches, because I'm not really looking. I don't really care if I get 100% hatch rate or 70% hatch rate. But if you want the absolute best hatch rate, you're really worried about it, those are the steps that you can kind of go through to make sure everything's the best. Now, I don't think anything would change there. Maybe if I didn't say it in there in that video, I can't remember now. I'm going to have to go back and look at them about it. Calibrating your incubator. That would be the only one thing. Make sure your incubator is calibrated and running correctly. Get a couple of, calibrated thermometers and make sure they're accurate. Throw them in your incubator and run it for a day or two and see what the temperature reads. See if they read the same as what your incubator is reading it at or not. Bob Cole says, hey, Chris, thank you for doing this for everyone. Oh, you're absolutely welcome. It's the least I can do. Gunkling and Palin says the retracted comments were fine, brother. Okay. I don't know what they were, why they were retracted. It doesn't matter. I'm just picking on you. Don Skid from South Mississippi says, I have 60 Pharaoh eggs in the incubator. Well, good luck with your hatch. I hope it goes well. Jacob Wolf says, I'm planning on going this year to QuailCon, and I was wondering how much each ticket was. Also, any good hotel recommendations for anyone? I know they are tent camping, but I'm not a tent camping type. Let's see. The tickets are, I think Verna's posting links. Were they like $40, $45 a ticket? I can't remember honestly now. Not terribly expensive. That gets you dinner as well. Oh, she's probably posting links to hatching. Let's see what QuailCon tickets were. I don't know what they're going to be this year. Well, there's a 2024. Let's see real quick. I'm looking. I'm trying to find it. I don't know. Maybe Verna could probably answer that a little better than I can. She probably knows the cost of the tickets. As far as hotels, I think most of them are. I mean, just look around, Google it. It's going to be in Miamisburg is where you're looking for hotel reservations, and find one that has decent reviews. I've stayed at 2 different hotels there, and both of them were just fine. There wasn't any issues with them. I know there are some sketchy ones, like some of the cheaper ones are pretty sketchy, I guess. But if you stick with the pretty, like I said, read the reviews, the hotel reviews. That's the best I can tell you. The ones I stayed at, I can't remember the names of them right offhand, but I would tent. I don't mind tent camping. I'm fine with that, but I always feel like I need a shower. So that's why I go to the hotels whenever I'm going in there. If I'm going to be interacting with a whole lot of people, I probably need to shower at the end of the day or the next morning. It's, summertime after all. Okay, Chris. Oh, wait, there's David. I forgot. I missed him. He says hello. Hello to you too. Chris Mason says, can we breed quail from one batch, or is line breeding a concern for health? We want to start small, but are able to expand later. And I don't know if we can do it from one batch of eggs. Yeah, absolutely can. There's probably going to be some line breeding that goes on there, but it's not really a big deal. You don't really know what egg the bird, what bird laid what egg anyway. So it's really kind of very difficult, next to impossible, to be able to weed that all out. But you can absolutely rebreed. You may want to add some new blood in every 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. Add some new roosters into your flock, get rid of your old roosters from a new bloodline somewhere or something. And, other than that, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. It's not a big issue. You're not going to have any issues with it. I didn't realize I didn't realize you guys sold eggs. Sorry, I didn't mention you guys. There's a good suggestion. And there's short pickings quail too. So thanks for the links, Verna. I appreciate that. Andy Rabbit says, dinner just here. So I guess that means you're leaving. Well, have a good dinner. Buster says, Verna, I got my package today. Everything was good. Okay. So there's Emma Ball says, hey, Chris, just arrived. Well, hello to you too. Thanks for joining us. Kim says, yes, they can breed and they can still be shown. I figured that was the case. So Swanson from Mississippi Delta is here. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. S.O. Swanson says ticket prices for 2024 QuailCon has not been set yet. I was in the ballpark though, wasn't it? It was around $45 last year, wasn't it? And we got free time from Dayton, Tennessee. Oh, last year they were $55 each with dinner, $15 per person. Okay, that makes sense. There you go. Don Skin says, no problem with my rabbits in South Mississippi. Have 3 does bred and 17 grow outs. Well, awesome. I got to get out there. I got rabbits due here pretty quick, like next week. And I still have not got that cage. I got to get the baby saver wire around the bottom of that cage. And it looks like it's going to rain all weekend. I may be doing that tomorrow evening after work if I can, if I have enough light. Blessed with Pet says, I also had a 12-week-old doe who lost almost 50% of her fur. I couldn't figure out why, but I think her sibling was eating her hair. They are separated now, and I think her hair is starting to grow back. Well, that's strange. So yeah, that is weird. But yeah, you're probably best keeping them separate anyway. That may be, they tend to get a little territorial sometimes and can fight a little bit. So I'm glad you got that worked out. Andy Rabbit says, you could take a trailer or motorhome to camp at QuailCon. Yeah, you could. Yeah, and Berta's agreeing. She says, yeah, you can trailer/van camp as well as tent camp. And kids under 18 get into QuailCon for free if they have an adult with them. Gun Klingen Palin says, I'm getting me some New Zealand white Tamuk rabbits around the 1st of April. Redneck took me a while to locate, but I found some. Well, good. Congratulations. Man, hang on. I'm having a hard time getting things. There we go. Got it working again. Well, congratulations on that. I looked for those for a while, thought about getting some. Never could find any locally at all, anywhere near me that I could pick up. But hey, I hope they do well for you. I'm sure they will. And Verna's saying that those links she posted for quail eggs are the ones that are MPIP certified. There you go. And Kim wants to know, where is QuailCon? QuailCon is at My Shire Farm in Miamisburg, Ohio. Andy says, I have my earphones on, but ain't typing much. That's all good. You don't have to type. It's fine. Curtis Snow said, decided to get rid of my rabbits. Still can't get does bread or kits to live after day one. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know what kinds of problems you're having. I remember talking about it a little bit before, but I don't remember the details of it. But yeah, that's strange. I mean, I very seldom ever have problems. I may have clicked on something. I saw hearts going up. I may have done that inadvertently. So don't be offended if I sent hearts up on your comment. It wasn't an intentional thing. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. You had to get rid of them. You couldn't get them to, I mean, it sounds like Blessed with Pets having issues. You are too. We'll see if I have any issues next week. I'm due for rabbits next week. So we'll see. Now there's hearts going up again. That wasn't me, I don't think. Andy Rabbit says, yes, other rabbits will eat the fur off of another rabbit. Absolutely will. You're right. And that's Blessed with Pets figured that out, got them all separated out. So I think she's good on that one. Good. Chris says, question, have you tried fermenting feed for your quail or supplementing their feed from the garden? Not really. I haven't tried fermenting feed for them. It's just kind of to me, it's like an extra work that's just not necessary. I mean, fermented feed is good for them for sure. And it's not terribly hard to do. But I just don't see the point in it, honestly. It's not that good for them. It's not like I don't have any problems with my birds. So it's not like, it's not like I got to cure something that's wrong with them. I'm not having any issues. So I just don't bother with that. As far as supplementing from the garden, I throw some vegetable scraps to them every once in a while, but not a big part of their diet. It's not really, in the wild, they don't eat a lot of vegetables. They eat primarily some seeds and insects. That's not their diet's not supposed to be really full of vegetable. So it's not something I want to give them all the time, but I do give them a little bit of something every once in a while. I think I probably told you guys this story, but we threw half a watermelon out for the chickens last year. I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. And I went to, it was pretty much a whole watermelon. It had pretty much gone bad. There was a soft spot. So I busted it, threw it in there and busted it. Well, just busted a hole out of one end of it, basically. I mean, they went to town on it. It looked like they had murdered somebody. I mean, they were just red all over them. They loved it. The next day I go out there and that watermelon's upside down. And I picked it up and I'm like, man, that's awful heavy. I turned it over. There was a chicken inside the watermelon, had crawled inside of it and died. And I don't know. I mean, it was pretty bad, but it was the strangest thing. I never would have thought of that happening. So that's way off topic of what you were asking, but no, I don't really do a whole lot of supplementing for the quail feed. Just let them, I just give them quail feed. I mean, just give them the game bird starter is what I feed. Jacob says, thanks everyone for the QuailCon info. You are absolutely welcome. And then there's a link where you can watch for updates on QuailCon. B Tech Wind Solar says, I went from Suregain feed to what I bought to be a great pellet because they finished beautifully. However, my young seems to suffer from bloat and end up dead when I wean them from, I think there's more than that, from mom. So I went from Suregain feed. I don't know what is that right? Suregain feed. Oh yeah, in Canada, huh? I didn't know that. I wasn't familiar with that. So you were having bloat problems whenever you're weaning them. You may be weaning them a little bit too early. Make sure you're not weaning before about 6 weeks. And I know you'll hear people say they wean at 5 weeks and get away with it. And yeah, you probably do, and that's good. I'm not telling you to change your ways necessarily, but 6 weeks is really about the kind of agreed upon time frame. They should be pretty much weaned on their own at that point. Because it does sound like if you're having problems with the young with bloat, you may be weaning them a little bit too early. That would be my guess, but I may be wrong on that one. Dawn says, just finished the automatic watering system for our quail. Make things a lot easier. Oh yeah, for sure. I've got a pretty small batch of birds right now. I'm only running about 12, 13 birds right now over the wintertime. But that little 3-gallon water, I just take a gallon jug out with me in the morning. It's a milk jug, water the rabbits, and whatever's left over goes in their water, and it stays pretty, not full, but plenty of water for them, and it works out pretty well. But when you've got more birds, then yeah, that automatic watering system makes a big difference. Ed Selby says, just started quail. Really like them. Currently raising 350 sheep, 25 meat goats, 100 chickens, and quail are easy. Wyoming weather is our worst nightmare. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, 350 sheep. That's a lot of sheep. 25 meat goats and 100 chickens. So yeah, I imagine the quail are much easier than all of that. B-Tech Wind Solar says, not sure if it's the feed with too much protein because packaging says fiber content can vary from 15% to 45%. That's strange. That's a huge variation. 15 to 45. There's not much quality control in that, so I might be concerned about other things. But I don't know that too much protein. Unless it's stupid high protein, like 30% or something for your rabbits. I don't know that would cause any issues, even then. But no, bloat's usually from like a diet change or something like that, which, as long as you're feeding the same thing you're feeding the mom, then it just kind of usually points to weaning too early, but maybe not. Verna says, Chris, you can get rid of the hearts if you want to. Go to studio, click on the live stream, click on the edit button, then click on customization, then uncheck live reaction. Oh, I don't care. I don't care if they're coming up. I just thought it was me that did it when I'm clicking around trying to highlight comments, the ones I've answered and haven't answered, and so I can keep track of them, but it may not have been me. Jacob says, what kind of light bulb would you recommend? I've seen people use grow lights. I believe they were called full spectrum grow lights. Would a daylight light bulb work for, or is a specific light needed for supplemental lighting? No, you don't need to worry about any kind of special light. It just needs to be light. That's it. I use a solar powered, like shed light. It's just a solar powered light. It comes on automatically when the sun goes down and stays on for as long as the battery holds up, and does a pretty good job most of the year, but usually middle to end of December till about the middle, about early February, usually about this time, my egg production really starts to drop off because the days are just too short. You get a couple of gloomy days, and the battery just can't keep up. It doesn't get charged up enough. But anything will work as long as you can read by it. Really, that's about all you need. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people, I think, answering the same thing. S.O. Swanson says that just a standard 40 watt or higher LED would work great for quail. Yep, absolutely. It doesn't even have to be quite that high. If you can light up their cage, like I said, and there's lots of people that use Christmas lights. There's all kinds. You don't need to worry about any kind of special light, though. Did I miss a comment? I see a response from Bob Cole. Says, Don Skin, did you glue your PVC joints? Some folks say not necessary, but I've had a couple come apart even after rubber mallet used to assemble. Did I miss a comment? I don't remember talking about that. Oh, talking about okay, so Don's putting together his automatic watering system. I never glue my PVC. I've never had issues with it coming apart, really. But, it's not, if you want to glue it together, it's extra secure. I like to be able to take it all apart, clean it out if I need to, but it's not that big a deal. Vert is saying, thumbs up, everyone. We got 54 people in here, 33 thumbs up, so it's not terrible. Tim says, can quail eat wild bird feed for bird feeders? They can. It's not a good diet for them to have all the time, but in a pinch, if you need to get through a couple of days so you can get to the feed store or something, it'll be fine. They can eat that. Make sure they have some grit available to them. If you've got a sandbox, that'll work for grit. But you don't want to just switch them over and try to feed them that exclusive. Plus, it'd be expensive, I would think. Joe Sandy's here, says running late. It's all good. We're not taking attendance. You know the deal. Phil from Washburn says, hey, Chris, I've been feeding my rabbits pellets and hay. Can I overfeed the hay? Not really. You don't really need to worry about overfeeding hay. They will overeat on pellets for sure, but hay is not really the same kind of thing. You shouldn't have to worry about it too much. Verna's saying the same thing I said about feeding bird seed, fine for occasional treats, but not enough nutrition for feed. Don says to Bob Cole, I always glue my PVC joints. Don't want them popping loose during the night. Talking about on a water. See, I don't worry about it too much. I figure if they popped loose at night and it runs the water out, oh, well, I put it back together and fill it back up with water. They're not going to die from a couple of hours without water, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But I haven't had any issues with it falling apart. Of course, the only PVC on my watering system is, I hook the hose into, and it's just the PVC right there where the cups are connected. So it's not pressurized or anything. So I don't have any problems with it leaking or popping apart. They fit pretty tight. But Chester wants to know, how are the Dumore cages doing? Pretty good. I mean, so far, no problems. I'm starting to see a little bit of rust around on a few of them where the door slide, where it slides in and out of the little hooks. It's kind of tight right there and it rubs the paint off. And it's starting to rust a little bit right there, but it's not terrible. It's not falling apart. It's just I see rust. So probably should put some more paint on it and keep it from rusting and falling apart. But that's it. Everything else seems to be doing pretty good. Of course, I've got them, into the shed, so they're not getting they're not in the weather getting rained on all the time. So far, holding up well though. Alba Love is here. Says hello, everyone. Hello to you too. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. How long are we in here? 25 minutes in, and we're at the end of the comment train, and there's nothing, no other chat to respond to yet. So I don't know what to talk about. I never know what to talk about when we don't have chats coming in. There's Chris Mason with one. Says, Chris, have you had any problems with fox or other bandits since installing the electric wire around the quail? We're surrounded by woods and worried about leaving quail outdoors. Okay, so, well, first of all, no, I haven't. I don't even have the electric wire going anymore. It's just, I don't remember what happened exactly. It stopped working, or I don't know, maybe, I can't remember. But I installed the electric wire around there. The fox left. He hasn't been back. So I haven't had any more problems with it. But somebody had great suggestions to me. I felt kind of stupid for not thinking of this myself. Put an extra layer of hardware cloth about a couple of inches below your floor, and nothing's going to get up through the floor to them anyway. So that's an easy solution that doesn't require an electric wire and extension cords and all that kind of stuff. That's probably a much better solution than what I had. I have had other things try to come after my quail. I've put a trail cam out before and caught raccoons trying to get to them, but they're not tall enough to reach the flooring, so they can't reach up and grab them through the floor. And they haven't figured out how to open any of the doors or anything like that. So haven't had, they usually give up. They'll try for a night or two, and then they give up and go on for an easier meal. Let's see. I had a hawk one time that was really after him, probably a young one that had just left the nest, and it was hanging on the bottom of the cage, trying to grab him through the bottom and all, but a day or two, he gave up on that. He didn't get any of them, and he moved on too. Don Skin says, I have a buck with a float valve, a bucket probably, with a float valve. If a line separates, the water will run continuously until someone shuts it off. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's a little different than my setup. I just bring water out and dump it in the bucket every couple of days. Ed says, I love the taste of rabbit. We just got go out our front yard and shoot cottontails. Yeah, cottontail's a little bit different than domestic rabbit. Domestic rabbit's very much a white meat, very lean. Of course, wild rabbit's pretty lean too, but it's more of a darker meat. It's a different flavor, I guess, so to speak. Gun Klingon Palin says, I'm watching you on another tab making Conejo Loco, making me hungry, bro. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was originally, like I said, a chicken recipe, and it'd be good with chicken too, but just about any recipe that has chicken, especially one that's going to be like baked or in a sauce or something like that, you can substitute rabbit for it and it'll work out pretty well. I don't think it fries as well. It's just a little too lean in my opinion for that. But everything else, pretty good. Gunkling and Palin. Oh, already read that one. Andy Rabbit says, did you get your other dough bread? No, I haven't done it yet. I've been lazy. I've just got so much going on right now. Just moved, changed jobs, got a new job. I've been working at that, and honestly been kind of lazy too. So I haven't done it. The weather was kind of nasty there for a couple of weeks. I just didn't want to go outside. It was too stupid cold and like drizzly and nasty. And, and this weekend's looking like it's going to be not cold, but super rainy, so I may not get it done this weekend either. We'll see. TM says, is this a record with getting to the end of the questions? well, maybe not a record, but it's a it happens sometimes. Sometimes the comment or the questions or the chats coming in a little slower than other times, and sometimes I get through it. It usually picks back up though. Joe Sandy wants to know, how is my wife Susie? She's doing fine, thank you. No problems. Everything's good. Feathered Connection says, hey, popping in to say, hey, Chris, what's your topic for QuailCon this year? It's February, so we're chomping at the bit, LOL. I don't know what my topic is. I usually let, Zach usually picks out a topic for me to speak on. I don't know what it's going to be. You guys tell me if you want me to speak on something specific. I always feel kind of lost because most of the topics are, it's something I've already addressed in video before. I feel like I'm just kind of, like a broken record, but I don't know. We'll see. BTech Wind Solar says, I weaned them at 8 weeks, but I believe I made 2 mistakes. I didn't supply enough hay for the fiber, and I gave them some apples that were frozen in the snow. Sugar could have aggravated the bacteria. Yeah, you get diet changes. Any kind of diet change like that, it's probably the apple would be my guess, because diet changes, rabbits don't do good with drastic diet changes. Now, as far as the hay goes, I don't hardly ever feed hay anymore. It's not necessary. You don't need to worry about it. In fact, if you want the absolute best grow outs, just feed nothing but pellets. But when you start introducing other foods to them, do it in very small amounts, because it can lead to bloat. That's the big issue. Most of the time when you run into bloat issues, it's because of a significant diet change, too much of one food or something like that. So I'm sorry to hear that happened. Lesson learned, unfortunately. Jacob says, do you use an Inkbird temperature controller for your brooder? I was thinking it was you who did. If so, what are your thoughts on it? Would you recommend it? Is yours the Wi-Fi version? Any complaints? I do use the Wi-Fi version. I don't have it hooked up to Wi-Fi because it's way out in my shed, and I don't see any reason to hook it up to Wi-Fi. But it works pretty well. The only complaint I have with it is mine's several years old. I left it out in the shed for a while. Something chewed the wire in half, probably a mouse. I had to wire it back together, the temperature probe wire. I had to wire it back together and tape it off, and it still works. But every once in a while it gets stuck. And like I said, it's pretty old, so take it with a grain of salt. But it gets stuck where it's on, and like the alarm will go off that it's overheating because it just stays on and it won't turn off. And I got to pick the thing up and kind of Fonzarelli it, smack it on the table, and then it works just fine for the longest time. And then every once in a while it just gets stuck on. Not very often, very rarely, but at least it doesn't get stuck off. It could be worse, I guess. But yeah, it's that's the only issue I have with it. And I, like I said, it's old enough and it's been sitting out there. That's probably part of my problem, is probably neglect. So I can't blame it on the unit itself, and I should probably just buy a new one. Free Time says, at what number of quail sales would you start to consider it a full-fledged business? Oh boy, I don't know. That's hard for me to answer because I don't really plan on making well, let's see what's Verna say. Verna says, free time when your quail are not only paying for themselves, but give you a little bit of profit too. Yeah, I don't have a big enough operation that I could ever really do consider it a full-fledged business. Not only that, I just don't know that there's enough of a market around here locally. I think to do a business, you'd have to be into like selling eggs, get NPIP certified and sell eggs and ship them. But you have to have a pretty good, you look at Zach's place at some time, when you go out there to My Shire Farm, that's a lot of birds he's running there, and a whole lot. I don't have anywhere near enough room for that. Not only that, but I live in town, so I couldn't get away with that. That would draw some attention for sure. Let's see. Kentucky Green Thumb says, got my first 2 eggs this week from my outside quail. Early spring. Awesome. Congratulations. Gumbo Galahad's here, says, late to the party. Hello all. Hello to you too. Thanks for joining us tonight. Who cares if you're late, if you don't make it? It's okay either way. We just appreciate that you're here at all. So thanks for joining. Let's see where we at here. The end again. No more comments coming in. I got to have some topics kind of planned out for this stuff, don't I? Well, I can tell you, new job's going pretty good. It's getting kind of busy. Got a lot of requests for some reporting that needs to be built. Some of it I can find the data for, some of it I can't. So it's a little bit tricky there. Really kind of testing my skills with DAX and Power BI, DAX is a language you write Power BI code in. And, I was stuck on one, trying to get something, one measure figured out today, pretty much all day long. And when I got home, it hit me. Oh, I know what I need to do. So hopefully I can remember that when I get back to work in the morning. Let's see. We got some comments coming in. Burra Burritz says, please help. My newborn king quails have splayed legs, 4 out of 8. Why and what should I do to help them? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully they're still pretty young, because it's really hard to correct as they get older. And you said newborn, so I'm guessing that they are pretty young. So first of all, to correct that, what you should do is grab them, put them in. You can do it a couple of different ways. Put them in something like a shot glass or something like that that's going to force their legs underneath them and leave them in that position for it. You could do it with, a lot of people build like kind of splints for them with some tape and stuff to kind of hold their feet under them, make them force them to have their feet underneath them. Leave them that way for 24 hours roughly, and see if that fixes the issue for them. Splayed legs can be caused by a few different things. A shot glass is one thing. The problem I have with the shot glass is the birds are just big enough they can usually get out of the shot glass. You need to keep them in that for a while. So I've used a piece of PVC before that's about so tall that you can put the bird in, 3/4 inch or something like that, maybe a little smaller, I don't know. That forces them to put their feet underneath, and they can't quite jump out of it. So that's worked out pretty well for me before. Just set it down and put the bird inside of it, and that's worked out. It's a really hard thing to correct if they're, make it much past, a couple of days. You really need to get it addressed pretty quickly. Usually splayed legs in young birds like that, newly hatched, it's probably an incubator issue, probably an incubator temperature issue, incubating a little bit on the cool side, which usually causes those birds to hatch out a little bit late, which means that they exert a lot of energy, they don't develop as well or something like that. And basically that's what causes the issue with the splayed legs. They haven't got their legs stretched out, the tendons and their feet under them. They just don't have the energy to do it when they first get out of the egg. And then once, it's just kind of, once they get that way, it's kind of stuck that way. But you can kind of try to correct it from time to time. Check your incubator, make sure that get a couple of calibrated thermometers, make sure they're accurate, throw them in your incubator, run it for a couple of days without eggs in it, and see what the incubator says the temperature is versus what those thermometers say the temperature. And I always say get 2, because if you got 1 and it says something different than the incubator, well, you don't know, is it the thermometer or the incubator? But if you got 2 and they both read the same or pretty close, and your incubator reads something different, well, then your incubator is off a little bit. You probably need to adjust the temperature a little bit, get it to where the thermometers inside say 99.5 degrees. If they're older birds that are getting splayed legs and things like that, that's usually a vitamin deficiency, like thiamine and vitamin E, I believe, are the two that affect that. But in young, newly hatched birds, that's not usually the issue. Usually, like I said, it is your incubator temperature was a little bit on the low side, just a little bit. That caused them to probably hatch out a little bit late, not develop quite as well, spend a little bit more energy getting out of the eggshell, which could be, if you're feeding extra calcium to your birds, that can be something that causes that too, because it can make for thicker eggshells and make it harder for the birds to pip and get out of the egg. So that causes them to expend a lot more energy, have a hard time walking when they get out and stretching those tendons out. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. It's a longer explanation than probably what you needed. But anyway, good luck with it. I hope you're able to get that corrected. S.O. Swanson says, have you got your seeds for your garden yet? Well, some. I mean, I've got some seeds. I got to go through my stash of seeds, see what I still have and what I need to order. I may need to order some more seeds. I'm not really sure. David says, I had a quail lay a huge egg today. Now she is all bloody on her backside. What should I do? Okay, well, first of all, are you sure it's the bird that laid the egg that's all bloody? It's not some other bird picking on her and beating her up. You say her backside, that makes me think it's probably prolapse. And unfortunately, there may not be a lot you can do. If a bird, now a huge egg, hopefully she's going to recover just fine from that. But if it is prolapse, you would see extrusion, something extruding from her backside. Let's put it that way. Try not to get too graphic. And you can kind of, push that back in, but chances are it's going to happen again if it's a prolapse issue. So there's not a whole lot of ways to fix that. What I would do is give her a couple of days, see how she's doing. Hopefully she recovers just fine. And if not, you may have to call her and, get her out of the flock. Chester wants to know, where is a good place to get J-clips? Boy, I don't know right offhand. I mean, I bought a whole bag of them from a local feed store, good grief, like years ago, and I've still got them, so I don't have to buy them very often. But I mean, it was a great big bag. It was like $8. So if I had to buy them now, I'd probably look on Amazon and get them on Amazon. Kentucky Green Thumb says, let's talk a little bit about selective breeding. Do you separate your hens and your cocks? Well, I don't. I mean, somewhat. Whenever I have a new hatch of quail, I usually just throw them in with my adults, and then as they get a little bit closer to processing size, I process them all. Once a year, maybe once every other year. I'll save a whole bunch of them back to become my new breeders, and when I do that, I try to make sure that I get save the biggest roosters, the biggest hens. Just go based on size, just looking at them, seeing which ones look like they're the biggest. That's as much selective breeding as I really do. You could get very specific with it, though, and like you said, be very specific with which ones you want to keep and which ones you don't want to keep. Keep your roosters, all of your roosters separate from your hens, so you don't have to worry about them getting bred. But I'm usually processing them before my roosters ever really get to that point. Verna says you need to put the open shelf liner in your incubator. Oh, talking about splayed leg. That could be an issue. You're right. I didn't even think about that. Splayed leg can also be caused if you've got very slick surface when they hatch out and they can't get traction. So that causes their legs to split out and they can't get their leg muscle stretched out. So that could be another issue. I didn't even think about what you're using on the floor. I mean, you don't necessarily need to put a shelf liner in your incubator. I never do. But make sure you don't have something like newspaper in the brooder box. That's very slick. It's hard for them to get traction on, and that can lead to like splayed legs. So, there are other issues that could cause that. TM wants to know if splayed legs is genetic. No, I wouldn't say it's genetic. No, it's not a genetic issue, really. It's more of a usually an environmental issue. Like I said, you've got too slick of a flooring, which thanks, Verna, for reminding me of that because I didn't mention that to begin with. Or, like I said, usually when I've had splayed leg issues, it's because it's the late hatches and there was probably a cool spot in the incubator, or the incubator was running a little on the cool side, causing them to hatch late, not as energetic, not being able to stretch out. And Verna says you can use half a bandage to tape the legs closer together. Verna's saying the same thing. TM, no, it's environmental. Jacob Wolf says, have you ever had to recalibrate your ink bird? I just thought it might be difficult to do if needed. I'm really wanting to step up my brooder and use an ink bird and a ceramic heating element. I've never recalibrated mine. I just assume that it's right, and it so far has been good. I haven't had any, I don't lose a bunch of birds or anything like that. I don't lose any birds really in the brooder. They do just fine. Bob Cole says, got my J-clips and pliers at Tractor Supply. Hey, I will tell you, I mean, their J-clips are probably fine, but they did have I got some J-clip pliers there one time, and they were a piece of junk. They were just like flimsy, thin. They weren't good at all. I ended up buying a pretty decent pair off of Amazon. I think it was much better, and they cost me, I don't know, like maybe $15. They were a little more expensive, but they weren't that expensive, and they were a much better quality. Verna says, I haven't experienced splayed leg for several years now. Yeah, I don't usually either, but the times I have, it's usually because the incubator is running a little cool. Free Time says, my chicks keep getting splayed legs till I put down a mat so they could get better traction when they hatch. That may have something to do with it. I mean, I was using my little giant styrofoam incubator, for the longest time, for over 10 years. And it's got that plastic, it's got holes in it, little tiny holes. So I didn't have any issues. I've switched over a little bit using this Barata and Ovation one, and I'm looking at it, and I can't remember what the floor looks like. I did not have any problems with splayed legs in my last hatch. It was fine. But yeah, if you've got a slick floor in your incubator, then yeah, something to give them, where they can get traction on, make it a little bit easier for them to walk will make a difference. Hannah says, hey, Chris, I'm new to breeding rabbits, and my second doe just had her first litter, 9 kits. Do you think I can expect her to always have large litters, or is it more common for litter size to vary? No, it's usually, you should expect good size litters. I mean, first litter is 9 kits. That's a pretty decent size litter. That's a good sign that you're probably going to get about 9, 8, 10, somewhere around their kits pretty much every litter. Usually the first litters sometimes are a little bit smaller, in fact, but usually 8 to 10 kits, that's about what I expect out of most of my rabbits. And if they have, when they start having smaller litters, when it starts getting down to like 4 or 5 rabbits, that's whenever and usually that's when the doe's, several years old. That's when I, start looking at getting a replacement because they're aging out. Let's see. Chris Mason says, question, approximately how much in pounds of quail and rabbit meat do you raise in a year for meat? Do you share it with friends and family or just household? I share some a little bit every once in a while if somebody wants some. How much? I have no idea. I don't keep that much track of it. My rabbit meat production has really dropped quite a bit over the last couple of years because I went for a long time without rabbits, looking for some good breeders. I only got, 1 litter out of each one of my rabbits last year because I had to wait for them to get to age. So that's dropped quite a bit. Quail, we do quite a bit of quail, but I couldn't tell you how many. I don't keep track of it really. Don't even have a guess. We don't eat, we eat quail. I don't, in the summertime, maybe a couple of times a month. Not so much in the wintertime. We get the chickens too, so we have a lot of chicken meat and all that kind of stuff too. But I don't know. Gunkling and Palin says slippery floor is the main cause of splayed legs. I put a towel down in the brooder for the first 3 days, and I don't have any problems anymore. Well, good. Yeah, I use those blue shop towels, and I don't have any problems with it. But your mileage may vary. George wants to know, Chris, is it better to keep quail eggs in the middle or spread them around in the edges when in lockdown? In the middle tends to roll them around, and some don't hatch, only beaks pop through. Okay, so, I've heard different ways of doing this. The thing that probably made the most sense to me, somebody said, put them all together because the act of one hatching will kind of spur the others on. They'll feel that vibration and that movement, and that kind of spurs them to get hatching. I've never had too many problems with them being rolled. I mean, they roll around for sure, but never had any problems with that really affecting the hatch rate. Now, if you're having better luck by putting them out to the sides, it's probably going to depend a little bit on your incubator. You may have cool spots in the middle or hot spots in the middle that's causing them to not hatch as well, or vice versa. You may have hot spots or cool spots on the side that causes hatching issues. So, I can't tell you one way is necessarily better than the other. Experiment a little bit, see what your results are. I tend to put mine all bunched up right in the middle of the incubator, and I get pretty good hatch rates out of it. But it may vary a little bit for you. It just depends on how your incubator runs and, the hot spots, the cool spots, all that kind of stuff. If you're talking about birds that are pipping but not hatching, there are a couple of things that could be happening there. Start with the most common one probably would be a humidity issue. So that's going to be like if you open the incubator up while those birds have pipped but not hatched, that can cause them to kind of get shrink wrap. That rush of drier, fresher air in there can cause the lining inside the egg to shrink down and cause them to basically shrink wrap inside the egg and not be able to hatch out. That's a pretty common thing that happens. Well, Verna says it's because the humidity is too low. Maybe. That's a could be. That's a very likely cause of it. But it can also be caused by other things too. One thing I mentioned earlier, if you're feeding a lot of supplemental calcium and you're bumping your calcium levels up, that can lead to the same kind of issues because it leads to thicker eggshells, harder for the birds to break through. They do tend to maybe pip through but not be able to get out. Lower temperature in your incubator, if you've got issues with your incubator running a little bit lower than what it says it is, it looks like 99.5, but it may only be 98.5. That can cause issues with it as well. The same thing we talked about earlier with splayed legs. So the first 2 things I would look at would be, is your incubator running the temperature it says it is? Get you a couple of calibrated, accurate thermometers, throw them in there and check it. And then what's your humidity levels during lockdown? Now, don't go crazy with humidity. If you're fogging up the windows on your incubator, you've got enough humidity in there. It only needs to be about 65, 70% roughly during lockdown. And if you go too high, if you go up to like 90%, you're going to drown the birds. So too high of humidity can cause the same kinds of issues. So anyway, there's a couple of things to think about there. So you've already checked the thermometer. You're responding to me. Oh, there's Guidro's Family Farm here. Says, hey, friends, popping in to say hello. We were talking about you earlier about your ability to ship eggs out. So thanks for joining us. Okay, George, so you're saying the humidity's good. You just find if they roll around, they have difficulty hatching upside down, and have a thermometer in as well. So you might get another thermometer, just to be sure, but it sounds like you're on the right track with that. Make sure you're not, opening the incubator a whole lot, because even if your humidity is good, when you open the incubator, all that fresh air coming in from outside, that's pretty dry. That's what causes the issue, is that drastic change. Hopefully that makes sense. But if all those things are good, then maybe you should spread them out a little bit. I don't really notice too many issues with them getting rolled around and having an impact on the hatch rate. But like I said, it's not an exact science in that sense. It could be a little bit different for everybody. TM says, can you help them by breaking the shells, or should you just try to keep them, or should just try to keep the temperature? Yeah, you can try. I've heard of people doing that and having luck with it, but very seldom. It usually doesn't work out really well. It's usually best to just let nature take its course, so to speak, and let them try to, make sure the temperature and humidity are, right, and let them do their thing. Hopefully they make it. Chester Hickman says, what is a decent price to pay for a good quality rabbit? I think it varies a little bit from place to place. Around here, you're probably looking at about $30, $35 for a good pedigree rabbit. A lot of times you can get New Zealand whites for as low as like $10, and they're just fine. They're great rabbits. But if you want a good pedigree rabbit that is a good solid rabbit, you're probably going to pay a little more, anywhere from about $35 to $45, somewhere right around in there. Let's see. Kentucky Green Thumb says, do you see any studies that show average incubator temps affect male to female ratios? Yeah, I actually did a video about that for a while. A while back, I did a video on that. Yes, it does affect your hatch rate of those. Not necessarily, it won't change the temperature or won't change the gender of the chicks inside the egg. There's a joke in there somewhere about the year we're in and all, but that's not the point. It won't change the gender of the birds in the egg, but it will make it more likely that either males will hatch or females will hatch. So it's not so much that you're affecting the ratio. You're gonna lose the birds that are less likely to hatch, and you're gonna have the more likely to hatch birds hatch. So it's not like alligators or something where the temperature depicts the gender of the hatchling. With birds, it's just you get a there's more to it than that. Anyway, but like I said, it's if you have I can't remember which direction it is. Let's say I may be wrong on this, so don't quote me. But if it's a little bit on the warmer side, it's more likely that your roosters will hatch. If it's a little bit on the cooler side, it's more likely that your hens will hatch. But if it's a little bit on the cooler side, it's more likely the hens will hatch and the roosters will not hatch and they'll die. So it's not, like I said, it's not changing anything. It's just that's the way it goes. You said that you get a heavy percentage of males. Yeah, that's the deal. I mean, that's it. That's what it is when you raise animals. Always get too many roosters, but hey, just eat them. Yeah, I know the problem. We all do. Aaron Guidros is here, says, hey, chat. Hey, Chris, hope you're doing well, my friend. I am doing well. Hopefully you are too. Verna's saying the same thing. Kentucky Green Thumb, that is normal. Free Time says, the temp has nothing to do with the sex. Nope. Nope, there's not really anything you can do to affect the gender outcome. You just got to deal with what you got. There's some old wives' tales that say, there's some old wives' tales that say like the rounder eggs are female, the pointier eggs are roosters. It's not true. None of it is. You just got to put the eggs in the incubator and you get what you get. That's all there is to it. That's why people a lot of times will do, 100, 150 eggs at a time, hoping to get, at least a dozen or so hens out of it. Chester says, do you get more does or bucks in rabbit litters, or is it an even split? It varies drastically. Some litters, it's pretty even. Some it's more bucks, some it's more does, but usually it's a pretty even, or even a little bit heavy on the buck side, probably. Hello, Governor says, hello, how are we doing on time? Oh, we got 6 minutes left. We're doing good. Hello, Governor says, hello, my doe started acting funny after I added a nesting box a couple of weeks ago. When it felt negative 30 degrees, she pulled fur and was not interested in eating much. Do you think I should breed her? So she's not bred. You added a nesting box. Oh, you probably added it because you thought, you added it for her to get in to stay warm, is my guess. Not because she was getting ready to have babies or anything like that. And you probably sent her into like a false pregnancy or something. I mean, she's like, hey, there's a nesting box. I guess I should build a nest, who knows? If you want to breed her, go ahead and do it. I mean, there's no reason not to. I don't know if that's necessarily a sign to breed her. Rabbits get temperamental. They do weird things. I have a buck that just sometimes quits eating for a day or two and then goes right back to eating. No problem. I mean, it's just the way they are. I don't know if it really means anything, but yeah, if she wants to breed, go ahead and breed her. Verna says, if you're lucky, you usually get about 50% each. Yeah, if you're lucky, for sure. Scrap 5000 says, dag nabbit, I'm so late. Hope it was a good one. God bless y'all. Hit the thumbs up button. Yeah, it's always a good time hanging out with you guys. Well, good for me. I don't know if it's good for everybody else, but Andy Rabbit said, so the temp for sexlings would affect the overall hatch rate. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's more likely that one over the other is going to hatch, but the rest are going to die. You're not changing anything. You're just affecting your hatch rate. 4-minute warning, huh? Yep, you're right. 4 minutes. Let's see where we at. And that's it. We're at the end again. Got some people saying hello to each other. And TM says it was a pretty good chat. It was pretty good. It was all right. Pretty good. You guys ever watch that show, Patriot, on Amazon Prime? It's not The Patriot, the movie, but Patriot, the series. Came out a couple of years ago. I think they only did 2 seasons, but it's pretty good. It's worth watching. It's pretty funny. It's got some dry humor in it. I tell everybody, nobody ever watches it. I don't know why. That's probably why didn't get extended for another season. But anyway, that's one of the things he always says on there. Every time somebody asks him how he's doing, pretty good. Tyler from South Louisiana, good to see you. Scrap 5000 says, my second brisket today, better than my first, but not quite there yet. Maybe third time will be a charm. You can go broke doing that, man. Those briskets are not cheap. But yeah, you can't, I mean, you have to really mess it up to make a bad brisket. So it's worth trying. I've only ever done one brisket on the smoker. Turned out pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the best brisket I ever had, but it was good. Everybody liked it. Kentucky Green Thumb says, thanks for being there. Keep it up. Well, thank you for joining. George says it's 1 p.m. in Australia. Perfect time for a live stream. Well, awesome. It's like almost 8 o'clock at night. It's 2 minutes till 8. So it's the only time I can do a live stream. So it works out for me. But yeah, it's getting late. TM says every time I make barbecue, it's different. Yeah, pretty much. I don't have a whole lot of consistency in mine either. And yeah, agreed. Consistency is hard in barbecue for sure. Oh, we're about out of time. We got just a minute or two here. We'll see if something else pops up and we can get responded to. There's something. Spirit Mouse Media says, hey, Chris, how's it going? Going good. Had my first bunnies this winter. Unfortunately, they were born when it was in single digits. Weather here, and they all froze today. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. I never have problems with that. I mean, even if it is sub-zero, I don't have any problems with that as long as the babies are born in the nest box and the mother pulls fur, which they almost always do. Sometimes they end up on the cage floor. I try to watch pretty closely and make sure I get them in the nest box if they are. But I never have problems with it in the cold weather. They always do just fine. I'm sorry to hear that happen to you. Chris says, thanks again, Chris. Appreciate you and all your advice. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Gumbo Galahad says, 2 minutes left in the period. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Not every day you will meet a hockey fan from Louisiana. Hockey fan from Louisiana. Yeah, hockey's rare down in Louisiana, isn't it? But hey, we got the Super Bowl coming up, talking about sports, football. I'm not a huge football fan, but I am a Chiefs fan. I'm from Missouri after all, and I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life. We finally got a team that's worth rooting for, so hopefully they win again. And it's another Chiefs 49ers matchup. My sister and her family are big 49ers fans, so it's always a good time. Jacob says, I'm going to look at a 4-baby rabbit hutch this weekend, or 4-bay rabbit hutch this weekend. That makes more sense. I'm excited to get it for my buns. Well, good luck. I hope that works out well. I'm sure it will. Sounds exciting. Yeah, are there hearts? Here, I'll do some. There you go. There's a whole bunch of them for you. Scrap 5000 says, anyone else? There's somebody else doing it too. Anyone else tap on the hearts quickly like used to tap on the fire button on arcade games in the 80s? That's funny. Okay, we're out of time. I got 1 or 2 more responses here. I'll get them real quick, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Spirit Mouse Media says, I made the mistake of letting my doe build their own nest out of hay, and I don't think they built them deep enough. I'm going to try nest boxes like that video you posted some years ago. Yeah, nest box is the way to go. If you're just putting hay on the wire floor, they're going to scatter it around. It's going to be a problem. But nest box, line them with cardboard, stuff them with straw. They work great. Sierra Delta says, good day, Chris, and all hi from Australia, where it's a balmy 90 degrees Fahrenheit and air conditioners working hard. Oh, and the quail doing okay. Looking forward to winter, where it might drop to 50 for a week. Yeah, we're looking forward to summer here. We're getting ready to wrap up winter before long. All right. Yeah, fly traps. That's what you do to get rid of flies. You can do fly traps. You can do lots of things. But anyway, got to wrap it up, guys. Thanks for joining me. Always a good time. As far as I know, we'll be back next week. I don't see any reason why not. And until then, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining. As always, God bless.